that's not a bad thing. I wish more people would understand that because they would enjoy bodybuilding more because you have to play the hand you were dealt like it's the one you wanted.
All right, so thank you for joining Bodybuilding's Amateur Hour Bar Talk. Tonight we got special guest Dusty Hanshaw. How's it going, big guy?
Awesome. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. So right below me we got Devin Trenholm. No, this one. I always get confused with that. It's so backwards. Devin, Jamie, and Big Andy. There we go. So before we get started, man, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping and just remind everyone to like, subscribe, share, and boom, hit that bell button.
Hit that bell. Hit that bell.
Yeah.
Ring it.
That was a good one, Jamie. That was probably your best one yet.
I'm working on it. I'm by myself in here. I'll turn it on. I'll fucking hit that bell. Hit that bell. You got to get that shit. You only get one task to do. You got to get it right.
That's very key. That's my task. So I feel
Right,
yeah, we got to do that right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
If you fuck up that, you're pretty much done. Over with.
That's what I'm invited for. So there we go.
Right.
Perfect.
Also, I just want to put a reminder at the moment, this podcast is not sponsored by Mutant, but I am and Dusty is. So don't forget to go online, go to iammutant.ca or .com if you're in the States, and you can use either one of our codes. In Canada, Joshua T20 for supplements and apparel, and Dusty's code, is it Dusty20?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Got it right. Thank God. iammutant.com. You go check it out and make sure you get on the gear and this amazing Dusty size t-shirt.
Yeah, those were gone quickly, sadly.
Yes.
Those only made it 3 weeks before they were sold out. So yeah. They are making more for their next run, I think, but that'll be a few months away still.
Good to know. Well, then, yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Sean's come out, I believe, this month. So those ones will be, and they're the same big ass shirts, plenty of up to 5X once again. So those will be popping out pretty quick as well.
Right. So like no plan B, I think it's on that and a couple other things.
Yep.
Yep. Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. So check that out. And yeah, thanks, man. Again, thanks for coming on and really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. What are we covering today?
Yeah, let's just get right into it.
Covering amateur bodybuilding, I think.
Nice. I spent a long time doing that. I probably know quite a bit about it.
Yeah. So pretty much the idea with this podcast.
You turned pro in 2014, right, Dusty?
Yes.
Yep. North Americans.
North Americans.
Was it? Right.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, super curious. Let's just get I'm really curious. I know you guys. You have another podcast that you're on. It's just bodybuilding, and you just talk a lot about bodybuilding. But I really want to get to know. We want to get to know you, and we want to get to know how you got into this. And I know you played hockey, but there's a little bit before your competitive, before you jumped on stage for the first time. What got you rolling, man? What really set you off into lifting?
Well, the bodybuilding just kind of took place because I got injured in hockey and I got done playing, knew my career was over there, and I just needed something to do, quite honestly. So I got a gym membership like a lot of people do, and literally was training there, saw a sign for a show, decided to jump in my first show. I had about 6 weeks out to doing it. Didn't have any muscle to speak of, just said, screw it, I'm going to diet, see what happens. Did a show. I hated every step of the process, promised I would never do it again. And I didn't know what I was doing. I knew to eat in my brain, low fat, low carbs was the magic. So I just did 2 cans of tuna about every 3 hours, until
Oh
the prep.
god, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, I can't eat tuna
No wonder you
anymore.
hated it. No wonder you hated it.
So
Fuck.
I did that show. I got in pretty good shape, but I didn't. I wasn't really in love with the process. So got done with that and just enjoyed training.
Right.
And then as time passed on, I was a window tinter at the time, and my first trainer from when I was playing hockey actually worked at a supplement shop down the way. And I went in there, met up with him again. This was years later, obviously. And shortly thereafter, actually quit working as a window tinter and went to work there just because I knew I enjoyed supplements. I knew I enjoyed training, and I wanted to just learn more about it. And that was kind of the beginning of the end, so to speak.
Right. So
Dusty-
oh, go ahead, Jamie.
Sorry. No, I was just wondering what level of hockey were you at when you were done?
I was playing juniors. Actually, the last thing I was doing, I came up to play for the Spokane Chiefs. I actually had a tryout with them, but I pretty much knew when I was going to that trip, it was probably already done. My shoulder was dislocating very, very regularly. So went up to the camp, dislocated it a bunch more. It was fine, but
It's fine.
I couldn't play the way I wanted to. So I actually went and got a surgery done, and I literally did one. It was like an exhibition style game for a fallen police officer. There was no checking, no nothing, and I was sore for about 3 days after that in the shoulder, and I just knew. I was like, this ain't happening. So
You're forward or defense? Forward, power forward.
I was forward. Yep, I was forward, and it was brutal because it's funny. I get asked all the time, like, "Would you rather play hockey or bodybuilding?" I'm like, "Oh,
Right.
that's not even a question. I'd be back playing hockey."
Bodybuilding. Oh, really?
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd
Really?
be playing hockey in a heartbeat.
Oh, well, I quit
Yeah.
hockey to do bodybuilding.
You
I still
don't,
could play.
You don't get to play. You don't get to bodybuild in front of 20,000 people very often. So
That's
you
true.
know,
When you're at that
that-
level of junior, I guess, junior.
the rush of playing in front of a lot of people and in these small towns. Like I played. Actually, my last season of actual playing was in Utah for the Golden Eagles. And I mean, even small crowds, it's just crazy to see how much fun it is to have that kind of crowd and people out having a good time. And, they kind of these smaller towns, they get behind their teams really well. And,
Oh, yeah.
even these smaller junior A teams, junior B teams all over in these small states and over in provinces and stuff, you guys know, it's like,
Yeah.
they're like celebrities in those little towns and people love
yeah.
it. So,
We have,
it was a good time.
Yeah, down like through our community, we have, I would just say like big road signs, like this is the town, or this is the city of, or this is the town of, and like in place a hockey player's name here, like
Right.
Yeah.
all the different people, right? They're like,
Crosby.
Yeah,
Well, those are
Sidney
those are
Crosby,
real
yeah.
hockey players. Let's
Right.
let's not pretend I'm anything like that or ever was.
But-
Josh lived where Sidney Crosby did, so.
oh
Yeah.
well,
Well,
yeah.
we didn't live there long since he turned pro when he was like 2.
No, right,
Yeah, right? He stayed most of the summers in BEI, so.
We actually played on the
Exactly.
same team, but I was a couple years ahead of him, so then we never actually played together. But I was like, oh, I actually played on the same team as him.
Right.
But
Well, at least you can say that.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that, Josh.
no, yeah,
That's
no,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. So we played on the same team, but a few years apart. So he just came up and kept going. I came up and fell off.
Stagnant.
Yeah,
Stagnant.
done.
I don't think many
Yeah.
people did what he did. So
Yeah.
No.
yeah, I saw him. He went and played. He got invited to like a juniors thing when he was 14.
Yeah.
And they're not even allowed to draft you at that age. And
yeah.
he just played. He played in one game, scored a couple goals, and at 14 years old, and went back down and disappeared until he was old enough to come back, and then came back and
Yes.
started ruining lives.
Yeah.
Ruining careers and ruining lives, yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm just really curious to go back to like your first show. When did you how did you know at the time like that you had what it took to get on stage even? Like you started to train, yeah, sure, like a lot of other people do, but then did someone come along and say, "Hey, you have what it takes to get on stage," or like what kind of like got you to that?
I
that-
needed
that part of it?
something. I needed something competitive to do. I knew I didn't want to be normal, because I had spent, as a lot of hockey players, when you come up the ranks, you're playing all the time, and you're not really like a normal kid. I mean, I moved out of my house when I was 16 years old.
Right.
You're playing, you're traveling with the guys, you're having a good time, and I needed something where to put that competitive energy. And the gym was great, but I was like, well, let me see about this competing thing. And I just did it on my own. Yeah, I mean, I was far from someone who you would have looked at and said, oh, we got to get this guy competing. I mean, I had decent sized legs from hockey, and that was it. Like there was no one was thinking, man, this guy should get in there. And I was 19 when I did my first show, and then I didn't compete again for years. I shouldn't say that. I did a show at 19. I did another one like a month later, just because.
Okay.
And then
You're there.
I took a few years because I wasn't, I didn't understand the whole process yet. But for whatever reason, that itch came back through when I was working in the supplement shop. And when I competed the second time, I was serious about it. I actually hired a coach and really went through the process. And that was the one where it hooked me because
Get the bug.
I realized that I enjoyed the suffering. The show, I never cared about the show all the way to the end of my career. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't care if I died it all the way down and took pictures of my hotel room and went and ate.
Right. I remember you mentioning that a few times. That's just like just the
Just likes the suffering.
The
Yeah,
process of
suffering.
it, yeah. The process of
Yeah,
it.
well, you have to have like a place to
process.
go for, I mean, basically the
Yeah.
show gave me a reason to do those things. And that was why the shows were important. I kind of looked at them as mile markers along the way. And just really enjoyed, you just like anybody else, you're coming into a show, you're a few weeks out, you already know what you look like. And you're saying to yourself, okay, where do I need to improve before I do the next one? My process was just a little bit different because I competed in 2006, did well, enjoyed the process. And then I said, okay, I don't ever want to do a show I'm not going to win again. So I took 2 years off from 2006 to 2008 when I did my next show. And then that's when I won my first overall. And that was kind of the beginning process. That show was in October of 2008. Nationals obviously is in November.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were like, oh, okay, you're going to go do nationals. And I was like, I have an internet connection. I know what those guys look like. I don't look like them. So I'm going to wait again until I feel like I could look like them. Back in the day, muscular development in a lot of these places used to put up contest results every Sunday morning from like all the shows, pictures all over the place. So I would wake up every Sunday morning and go check whatever shows happen and go straight to the overall winner and just say, can I beat that guy? Or at least be in the mix, like a coin toss. And once I had about 5 or 6 months where I felt like I would be in the mix with every guy I saw, I was like, okay, I'm ready to do a national level show. So that's when I reached out to Chris Aceto and did my first national level show, which was the Junior Nationals in 2010. And then I won that show, my class, and then moved on to the USA's 6 weeks later. So it was kind of quick as far as number of shows, but not quick as far as time.
Right.
Man, so you played.
Did you have a trainer You keep your trainer through Did you have your trainer through the whole off season through that too, or just
once I hired
shows?
Chris, I worked with him until I was done with my career.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had, Dante Trudell did all my writing of my actual training in the off seasons, and he did so between 2007 and 2010. He was writing all of my training and off season stuff. Then once I went into pre-contest, Aceto took over, and that was kind of the back and forth I ran with the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. How was training with Chris? Like his coaching style is pretty great. Like really well known.
It's simple. I mean, that's the biggest thing is Chris does not overcomplicate things. Nothing is predetermined. So like I used to laugh because if I were to like print out my diets from every show I ever did and put them side by side and showed them to you guys, you would assume I hired a different coach every show. He definitely rolled things through based on how your body was changing, things like that. The most enjoyable part of training with Chris actually was, here I am, this in comparison, mediocre amateur bodybuilder, and he's working with these phenomenal pros. And there were times I felt like I was his only client. I mean, he would text me sometimes, like, because I owned a business at the time. So I'd sometimes be getting to the gym around 10 p.m. to start my workout, rolling out after cardio at, 12:30 a.m. And he'd be on the East Coast. Yeah, I remember, because I lived in Scottsdale at the time. And he'd shoot me a text, "How was legs?" At like 3 in the morning his time. And I'm like,
oh, man.
A, why are you awake? B, how do you know it was leg day? C, wow, And the cool thing is now, years later, I know a lot of his clients, and they all have the same story. They're just like, the guy is so disciplined with his clients. And the best part is he coaches on the side. He's a real estate guy.
Yeah.
Coaching is just his hobby. You know what I mean? So
I
the
didn't
fact
know
that he could do it at that level was bonkers.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
awesome.
And
Jeez.
at say today, for example, would he be still taking on, like, if you were to approach him coming into, or I was to approach him looking at coming into a national show, would he be like, let's give it a shot? Or is he?
Yeah, probably. Depends on. I mean, there's a few things, obviously, because it's got to be the right fit for him. But like anyone I've ever asked him to take, he's taken. So, and ran with them. So it's not, and he doesn't care if you're doing the Olympia, a national level show, whatever. Like, he loves helping bodybuilders. And I think one thing I really enjoy about him is I think he gets as much joy out of helping someone like me as he would out of helping Sean Roden. And obviously to a lot of people, it'd be a lot more fun to help someone who, like, everything they do is going to be nuts versus like, okay, this guy's got to kill himself to turn pro, but he did. He really, I think he enjoyed taking on those, because when I first reached out to him, I was a little nervous. I'm like, he has no idea who I am. And I'm going to send him off-season pictures, which I don't have a pretty physique, so it's really not pretty in the off-season, And it was like, well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what he says. And I mean, literally, at the time I DM'd him because I didn't have his email address. I said, hey, this is my name. I want to help. I want to have you get me ready for the USA's 2010. And he emailed me back or DM'd me back, and he's like, sure, when do you want to start? And I said, tomorrow. He sent me the total for the price for the full prep. This is going to age me. Sorry for you young people. You don't know what this means. But I went to a bank. I got a cashier's check. I overnighted it to him. And, the next day I got a text message that said, don't ever spend $22 to overnight me a check. And we were off to the races.
Don't ever spend. That actually just, showed your like willingness too, and in some ways, but like,
I was serious.
You want to get, you want to get it done. You
guys know how that works. I mean, when a client reaches out to me and they're like, I'm really excited to get started, and then they go dark for like weeks. I'm like, your version of excited and mine are different. Like, if we had Venmo back in the day, when Chris said, when do you want to work? Yeah. Then he would have gotten a Venmo notification, and he would have known, oh, right now.
Let's go.
So it was awesome. I mean, my experience with Chris beyond the shows, the most fun of bodybuilding I had outside of the gym was hanging out the couple days before shows, because all we would do is hang out in the room.
Awesome. Yeah.
I would, I'd pose. He'd look at me, tell me what to eat. I'd eat a meal. I'd take a nap. He'd come back in 2 hours, knock on my door, wake me up again, and we would do it over and over all weekend.
That's
quite a bit of attention right there for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't sleep on those show weeks. Like even like the Olympia, the Arnold, when you see him with 6-7 guys, he literally won't sleep. Like he just goes guy to guy to guy, knocks them all out, and then crawl. Like one year he came with me to dinner after a show, and he actually fell asleep at the table.
Poor bastard.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what the hustle was right there.
Yeah.
It was harder work for him than it was for any of his clients. I'll promise you that.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's well worth the money for sure.
Oh yeah. Not even close. Yeah. Not even close. I would never work with someone else.
Is it not to be personal, but is he crazy expensive? I mean, you don't need a number, but
I don't think so.
No.
You know, I think it really I think expense comes down to value, right?
Right. And he's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I have no issue. Like at no point, I mean, when I first started, it cost more to me when I first started than by the end because I didn't have as much money, and it was still very, very worth it. If anything, I would argue I underpaid for the amount of attention I got.
It sounds like you would, for sure.
That's definitely
Dusty,
good.
can I ask you a personal question, Chris?
True.
Was the diuretic protocol in that?
Wasn't too crazy. We would use it depended on the year. Like I think the wildest we did was one year I did aldactone, a half a tab on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I took a half of a diazide Friday afternoon and Friday before bed, and I woke up in the morning looking insane. And those are 25 tabs, so 12 and a half at a time. They were caps. I shouldn't say that. That's a lie.
You hear crazy stories.
Yeah,
right?
Dusty, you're a liar.
It's
hard to
That's
believe.
not bad at all.
No, I think, but it comes down to person. I mean, here's the thing, man. They're not. It's not that crazy. I think that's the funny thing is people peg these. Oh my God, they did this. No, but I mean, even the ones that are higher, like you do what your body requires. You know, if my body needed more, we would have done more. I think the reason I was able to get away with taking the lower amounts was because he would have my metabolism cranking so high. I was drinking so much water that I think I'm already pissing out. I mean, I was drinking 3 gallons of water for like 6 weeks before a show just to stay like where I wasn't starving, which of course meant I was pissing every 17 seconds. So when you abruptly pull that out, your body is still going as if you're pissing it out. I mean, I can't remember the weights, so don't quote the numbers, but to give you guys an idea, like in 2010 when I did the junior nationals, I was peeled. I mean, at prejudging, they had me all over MD. The majority of the people there assumed I was going to win the overall because he just had me just dry and nasty. Then we went to the USA's 6 weeks later, and at weigh-ins, we hadn't done anything yet. So I think I weighed in Thursday afternoon, and I went to weigh-ins. I was still pale. I hadn't started tanning, nothing. We hadn't changed water at all. And so they took a picture of me at the weigh-ins, and it was terrible. I was white, I looked soft, and it went all over the internet because I mean, it was cool. A lot of people were rooting for me after the junior nationals because I didn't win, and a lot of people thought I should. First off, I'll go on the record and say I was fine with not winning. The guy who won and I were apples and oranges. He had a beautiful physique, and I had an ugly big one, so it was fine. But not winning was the best thing that ever happened to me because it kept people talking about the show for like weeks afterwards, where had I won and everyone agreed, it would have been old news like 7 minutes after. Like, okay, the guy won, you move on. So anyways, it went all over the place that I didn't peak or whatever. So I went back to the hotel. I didn't see any of this because I wasn't going online. But Dante actually texted me. He's like, oh man, everyone's talking shit online. I'm like, whatever. So we went back to the hotel, started pulling out the water. And I weighed in the next morning 14 pounds lighter than when I went to bed. Wow. And I looked completely bonkers. Insane. So I took one picture, which I posted a million times back in the day, but we took one like clasp hands, most muscular picture. I sent it to Dante. I said, put this on the internet. We didn't miss anything. And it was quickly discovered that I had not missed my peak. So it was fun, and that was one of those nights where I kept waking up in the middle of the night to piss. And the hotel that I was staying in had like a long bathroom, like almost like a hallway in the bathroom, where the full bathroom was, and to the right was like a toilet in another room. So after like my 4th or 5th trip, I'm walking back to the room, and I was like, I wonder what I look like. So I flipped the light around. I turned, and I hit one shot, and I went, oh shit. Okay, we're good. And I turned the light off and went to bed. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And I remember I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and Chris was waiting out, and because we had a 2-bedroom thing. I had a living room and a bedroom. So he was waiting for me in the living room, and I walked out, and he goes, perfect. Like, it's like he knew exactly what he knew was going to happen. I mean, and it was it was exciting because that was like one of those moments where you're like, I don't know what just happened, but it was nuts, you know?
What did you weigh? What were you weighing? Super heavyweight, heavyweight?
I've been a super heavyweight forever. So yeah, it was a super heavyweight, but I want to say it was like low 240s the first time. Might've been even high 230s. I don't really remember, but, it just, that was another trippy thing is the first time I did the USAs, you know, I'm backstage and I'm looking at all these guys. I'm like, these guys are huge. And right. I'm pretty relaxed. I'm not really one that worries about things. There's nothing you can do about it. But I was like, all right, these guys are a lot bigger than me, you know? Went out, did the prejudging. When I came out from the back, Chris came walking up to me and he goes, "You are enormous." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And he pulled out the pictures and I was like, "Oh, I'm just fine with this group." You know, so it was awesome. And I ended up getting 5th, which was it sounds funny because everybody goes into these shows to win, but I'm like, if I can make the top 5 at my first ever pro qualifier, I'll be stoked. Especially for me, like I was never confused about my genetics or how good I would be, so I knew that would be a solid accomplishment out the gate.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, screen. So would this be it?
That picture on the right was from actually Junior Nationals.
On the Junior Nationals.
So that was 6 weeks before, but that gives you an idea of the conditioning, though. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Wow.
Like,
so that was my prep from left to right.
Jesus.
Yeah, Chris knows what he's doing.
The transformation is unbelievable.
Wow. That's the beauty of having an ugly physique is it makes for a drastic transformation.
Okay, so
it isn't that ugly, really.
Yeah, I just want to.
Once you're in, it's fine.
I was just gonna say, like, I wanted to point. People might be questioning what does he mean by ugly, because I hear you mention that quite often, but then you look at these pictures like, there's no way. What is he talking about? In your eyes, what are you seeing?
What it is I think guys forget is you're comparing your genetics to the best of the best of the best.
Yes.
So I'm very aware that compared to most people, my genetics are going to be off the charts.
Right.
But compared to Kai Green, I should quit bodybuilding. And I think that's the part that people kind of mess up with, you know, because for example, me, I have wide hip structure. I should have went into powerlifting. I mean, truthfully, if you want to say what I would have been better at, it would have been powerlifting.
You are friggin' strong, so.
I liked the look of bodybuilding. I was always drawn to it. Yeah. And I think back in the day, one of the advantages we had was bodybuilding wasn't popular yet. It wasn't so cool. Like if you said to somebody at the gym, "Oh, I'm doing a show," they'd go, "What? What's that mean?" And then you'd say, "Oh, I'm doing a bodybuilding show." And then the next question would be, "Why?" Now everyone knows what a show is. It's a thing to do, you know, and very often in our sport, it's the only sport I've ever heard where before anyone's ever done it, they're asking about winning a pro card.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very normal thing.
Almost every single day, teenagers are coming in.
I get that a lot.
Like,
as a coach, I get that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I get my pro card.
But back in the day, you competed to get better.
Right.
You know, I enjoyed just getting better. I wanted, and then I knew early on I could make money at the sport. So because I was making money long before I was a professional, but it wasn't until I started working with Chris and I saw my physique, I was like, you know what, I can turn pro. You know, I understood the ability of my physique and the limitations. Like I also never thought I was going to be a great pro. I wasn't confused by that. I was like, all right, that pro card is kind of like my Olympia. So if I get that, that'd be a great goal, and it's completely feasible, but not easy, you know? So that's why people get confused on the comments about a physique or same thing with muscle mass. I mean, like I was saying, I think before we started the show, like I'm not heavy anymore for me. You know, I can carry around 285 like it's nothing, and it doesn't take anything for me to hold this amount of weight. I'll eat 3 or 4 meals a day. Like I'm starting to grow now just because Nikki's going to do a show. So I need to start training harder. And I was like, well, I might as well start eating more during her little short off season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll be, I won't be shocked if I'm 300 by the Olympia just because I'm kind of bodybuilding again,
Right.
So, but again, that's where things get confused. So putting on size is easy, but it's not put together really well. And that's the part people miss. I mean, weight confuses people. Size, like, if you see me in a tank top and you don't know anything about bodybuilding, you're like, he must be awesome, like in my prime. But someone who knows bodybuilding, they go, well, take his shirt off. And they go, he's not awesome. He's big. And there's a difference. There's 210-pound bodybuilders who would destroy me at 270. They just they're put together different. So that's not a bad thing. I wish more people would understand that because they would enjoy bodybuilding more. Because you have to play the hand you were dealt like it's the one you wanted.
I like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
like that
that's
too.
good.
That's good. That's good. Good shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well said, man. Yeah.
that
What
right
was
there.
the heaviest you ever got to?
Heaviest I ever got, I think, was 314. And that was probably before one of my last shows. The heaviest I ever competed was 270.
How tall are you?
And I always got in shape. About 5'10".
It's like that's
enormous.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I look back now. Nikki and I were looking through some old mutant ad photos and stuff, just trying to look for something I wanted to use. And I saw a picture of me, and I literally looked at it. I go, I don't even remember ever being that big, because it's drastically more, and that, like, so when people who don't know me, they see me now and they think I'm really big, which is cool, but this is like a comfortable weight. And you guys all know this. I don't care what size you are. There's weights where you hit a point where you're uncomfortable.
Yep.
And then in time, that weight's not uncomfortable anymore. Like the first time I hit 260, I thought I was going to die. I was like, this is terrible. My feet hurt. I couldn't walk upstairs. I felt awful. I haven't been under 270 outside of my coma in, 8 years. So,
Damn, yeah.
Walking around at, anywhere between 275 and 285 is comfortable. But if I were to, I bet you if I touch 300 again, I'll be like, oh, all right, let's bring this down a little bit again. There were those numbers that you just dread hitting.
Yeah.
I think about like Ron, he was 333 at one point.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he's taller than me, but no, thank you. I'll pass.
He said that weight kind of scared him too at that weight.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he was ridiculously large at that weight because he's also just a big man in general, so it's I told him, like, you should have just walked around like that and made a fortune. Screw bodybuilding. Be a monster.
Yeah. Yes. So when did you start your mutant? Sorry.
What's that?
How's your joints doing now that you're I guess, you've lost a lot of weight, so they probably feel a little bit better, but is there any residual, issues that you've got?
No, my body was essentially made to handle weight, I think. My joints all feel great. I can still pull, do whatever I want. I have a torn labrum right now. I did that right after my surgery, or my surgery / coma. But nothing, like, my joints wake up in the middle of the night. I have no pain. My body actually feels phenomenal. So it's kind of weird. I mean, I still feel as good as I did in 2010. Body just feels fresh, ready to go. Even now that we're starting to train harder again, I was curious, like, what's going to happen when I start pulling 500-600 pounds again? And it just likes it. It's fine.
It's cool.
It's fun.
So, yeah, he is lucky. Yeah. So, talk about your coma? What was that? What's that about?
Yeah, you were in a coma for about a month.
It's like, how do you guys not know this?
I just slipped through the coma situation.
This is for viewers, right?
Yeah.
We know it, but
I mean, basically, it was pretty simple thing. Is from years of bodybuilding and eating a ton of food. I didn't know this, but just kind of giving people an understanding of what happened. I always had a little bit of, acid reflux type thing. Never thought anything big deal of it. Just take Pepsid and keep moving on with life. I figured that's part of eating way too much food. And once I was retired or whatever, I was one day I was getting ready to go to an appointment. I'm eating steak, and I swallowed a piece of steak that was a little too big, and it got kind of caught in my throat. But you know how when you get something caught in your throat, but you can still breathe? So I literally was like, oh, damn it. I'm not going to be able to finish this food right now. I'm going to go get in the shower. So I'm feeling this thing in my throat. I go shower. I get ready. I come out and I'm like, all right, I got to get this thing down before I go to this appointment. So I just grabbed a thing of water. I was like, we'll see. This is either going to hurt or push it down. So I drank a bunch of water. I felt the steak go down, but the whole way down, it kind of hurt. And I was like, ooh, that was uncomfortable. But it went down. So I'm like, all right, here we go. I went to my appointment. I was getting my beard trimmed up. And I told my friend that was doing it, I was like, yeah, weird thing. And she goes, oh, that's odd. And I laid back there. She did my beard. About an hour later, I leave. And I'm walking out. I'm like, man, I still don't feel right. I was like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe that didn't go all the way down. So if I can make myself sick, I'm sure I'll be fine. So I can actually do that just with my mind. I can be like, all right, puke. And then I do. I think that's from years of being like, if you feel nauseous, get it out so you can move on with your training. So I puke, but it's just blood. And I'm talking like I videoed it because I knew I was like, this is probably not good.
There's a picture on your Instagram.
Yeah, my Instagram. It's bigger
blood
than my shoe.
Blood on the sidewalk.
Yeah. I'm wearing a size 12 shoe and the blood is longer and wider than my foot. And I was like, don't think that's good.
Right.
So I called a friend of mine that's a nurse and I was like, hey, take a look at this picture. And I was like, so I got to worry about this? And she was like, you need to go to the hospital right now. And I was like, all right, well, I got to go train back with Tommy real quick, and then I'll go. And she's like, no, you need to go to the hospital right now. You know, so I was like, all right. So I went to the hospital, and the quick story is I told them what was up. They took me back, and they thought that maybe I had just, like, they were like, all right, we go in and essentially either suture or I don't know what it's called, but basically like solder whatever's damaged and, you know, see in a few hours.
Right.
So I was like, all right, cool. I went under and then woke up almost a month later. And one of my old training partners was actually in the room. And I woke up and I saw him and I go, hey. And he's like, hey. And I said, what's going on? And he goes, you know what day it is? And I knew what day I went in. So I go, Thursday. And he goes, nah, it's not Thursday. Do you know what month it is? And I'm like, huh?
Oh, man.
And that's when he informed me of all that went down. And so I was in for about a month. But the thing that was tricky was when they put me under, they actually essentially turned my body off. So nothing was happening. There was no communication at all with my body. So when I went in there, I was 304. And when I came out, I was 230. 1 month later. Yeah. Wow. And then, so when they woke me up, they had to teach me how to walk again. So they said, all right, you're going to be a couple more weeks in here. And I'm like, I'm not going to be here a couple more weeks. This is crazy. So
can I pull up a couple of pictures while you're talking?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So I ended up, they started walking me that day. And 3 days later I left. Because I knew my body would remember how to do everything. And I think that's part of, that's me in my condo after I got back out. That's little Donna. Everyone needs to see Donna right there.
Yeah.
There she is, rocking the show. So, yeah, this was after when I came out. And then, then it was just get back to work, you know, which was awesome in itself because everything.
That's a scary picture, man.
Yeah, that was not our best day, and look at the time. She even got a mat. I'm not dating a ninja. This was back in the time when you had to wear those.
She snuck in. She snuck in.
Yeah.
That was 2021, wasn't it, Dusty?
Yes. Yep, sure was. That was when I went in thinking that I was going to be fine.
Oh, like this is you were coming in, and then the next shot is
the next
you're
one
not
was
fine.
me not so fine. Yes. So yeah, not the best moment, but it was good. Right. You know, I came out with a renewed understanding of life and the value of each day, and that was. Yeah, I actually look back now. I tell people all the time, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I woke up and you just realize you're like, oh, so that was almost it, you know, and that really does clarify things that matter, things that don't. And the day that I came out, I went home, I changed my clothes. I said, all right, a steak tried to kill me. Let's go get a steak. I went and ate a big steak for dinner, got my revenge,
Right.
and then we got back to work. I was in the gym that night. I went real late at night because the Muscle Factory, I had a key, so I just go in and let myself in. And it was so funny, guys, because I went in and they have an Arsenal shoulder press.
Oh
So I was
no.
like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm not going to be too strong. So I grabbed a quarter and I put it on each side, and I got under it and I pushed, and it didn't move. And I was like, all right, we're starting a little less than I thought. So, but it was cool because, you know, what's wild is everything comes back to how you look at it. And people were like, oh man, how do you have such a good attitude? I'm like, I'm back in the gym.
You are.
I'm not.
Yeah, you're there.
You know, like, so it was awesome. And then the other thing that was fun, I think a lot of people in that position would look back on what they used to do.
Right. And
they're like, man, you do 5 plates a side on that thing for reps. And now you can't do a quarter for one. But what was fun was literally I would go in and train, say I'm doing, you know, a hammer incline press, and I have a quarter on it this week, and I get 6 reps. Well, next week I'd have a 45 on it, and I'd get 10. So, like, the percentage jumps were enormous.
You could really see it.
Yeah, so it was really, I mean, to be honest with you, it made it okay because it was fun to see the numbers. The only thing that sucked was I didn't really have my balance and stuff, so I had to do a lot of machines, and everyone knows I don't really love that. So, but, you know, that came back after getting out of my own way as far as frustration.
Right.
You know, and then the size came back really, really quickly. My body wanted to be heavy, so I don't remember the exact timeline, but it's on my Instagram. But I mean, I was up to 270, 280 in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the size came much quicker than the strength because my athleticism, and I had an impingement in my neck. So my left or right, one of my arms wasn't pretty much working at all. So
the way
was really
that you were sleeping, or like the way that they kept you in the bed?
Yeah, because they had to keep flipping me around and up and down and on my face. So essentially something got pinched from staying too long. And eventually it's kind of funny, but I kept seeing a PT to try to figure it out. And I actually was tanning one day in a tanning bed. And when I was feeling tight, and I just leaned my head forward, and a thud, it was like pop, but almost like a one thing. Yeah. And I felt it down to my feet, and I'm like, I think I just fixed it.
Yeah.
And I literally got up, and I texted him. I go, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I think I might have just fixed the nerve thing. And I went so I went home, and the ultimate test was really simple. I had a hard time at the time just putting my hand up on my head to, like, shave my head. And I was like, oh, yep, we're good. And then the strength just started climbing. Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So I got to thank the guy that owns the tanning salon. You know, I was in there trying to kill myself, and I fixed it.
It's like doing something not great, but then thank you.
So what happened in the hospital that made you go into a coma?
Well, they had to, because once they got in there and found out that it was torn all the way down, they had to put me in the coma, because I can't remember what the procedure is called, but essentially they put a balloon in your entire esophagus, and then whatever takes place, they have to just hold it there, and you can't move during that process, is more or less my understanding. And then however long that took. But then once I was in the coma, we started having more problems because they didn't understand, for example, that I'm a bodybuilder. So I started retaining a bunch of fluid. So then they started throwing diuretics at it. The problem was I was dehydrated because I drink too much. So then, you know, fortunately, again, my friends and family knew me and were like, hey, he drinks 2 gallons of water a day. I think he just needs more fluids. So then they started pummeling with fluids. Well, then again, because of bodybuilding, I was smoking through the pain meds. And they were like, so they actually asked if I was an addict because my body was going through the pain meds so quickly. And they were like, no, that's just probably his body and his metabolism. So I was just tearing through meds. They did have to use the seatbelt restraints on me because I had broken some restraints and caused a ruckus, apparently. So there's a lot that happened when I was sleeping. But, you know, I love it because people would be like, man, you know, that must have been stressful when you were under. I'm like, not for me. I was asleep. I had no idea anything was happening,
You were, you were
Stressful when I
relaxing.
came out and I saw the bill. I was like, oh, $500,000. Okie dokie.
Fuck,
So speaking of the bill, I remember quite a while ago, actually, when you were coming around, and there were so many people jumped on GoFundMe.
Yes, I had,
that was
when I woke up, I got 120 grand in donations to my hospital bill, which was absolutely, I mean, it was
wow.
amazing. I mean, I had insurance, but my bill was over 20 grand a day. So,
Oh man,
you know,
yeah,
and so now obviously that's 20 grand before insurance and everything. But
right.
by the time the GoFundMe went through and everything, I only owed, I want to say 20 or so $1,000 that I had to pay. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was enormous. It was, and it
like
was
the
seriously humbling because I used to tell people all the time, and not in a cynical way. Just I feel like a lot of bodybuilders, especially if they have social media. I hate to use this word, but any sort of fame or
right,
notoriety,
yeah,
they get a big ego. And I always remind people, like, listen, if I quit bodybuilding tomorrow, by Friday, no one will remember my name. It won't matter.
it's
Like, I'm
like
not changing lives. I'm not curing cancer. And I really felt that way. And I didn't mean it to be a
yeah,
negative thing, but I was like,
right,
I'm just a bodybuilder. There's nothing magical happening. So when you wake up from a situation like that, and when you come to, and then somebody goes, oh, by the way, like
you
hundreds and hundreds of people who you have never met donated money to you're just like,
yeah.
wait, what?
What?
I mean, because it was really, I was complete. I didn't even, I mean, I did a thank you video, and I'm known because I've been doing this for so long. Like, I'm a one and done take on anything we do. If Mutant
Right.
wants to do a video, I mean, it must have taken me 7-8 times. I'm like, there were no words to describe that because I not the money was fine, but the fact that that many people, you know, altered
Did
their life. I mean, and these are people who they're, I mean, most people, you guys all know this, like most people don't have a bunch of extra money.
right,
So that
yeah.
means that
Oh
they were
yeah.
taking money away from themselves and their family to help
Yeah.
someone that they don't even know. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
friends and stuff as well, but it was really shocking to see. And it also made me feel like, okay, what I'm doing has a lot more value than I realize, but I also need to take it even more seriously now because I owe.
People are paying. Yeah. Like you did that video in your truck, did you not?
Yes.
I, yeah, I remember that quite well.
My dogs were talking. They don't like anybody coming to the door.
That's like they don't. Yeah.
Harvey likes
Yeah.
to lay down the law. But yeah, no, I
I-
did that. I was actually
I-
waiting for
that's-
my mother in Target in my truck.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. That was years ago, and I still remember that. I don't even have to look it up.
Right.
So that's how much that impacted like our lives
Resonated, yeah.
and right. So that's man. See, like that's saying something. It's like a thank you video from you years ago is still in people's minds. Like we can still recall that. Just
Yeah, no,
'cause
it was definitely awesome. And like I said, it's cool because I've had the good fortune now
Yep.
of sharing similar situations with a lot of people. Because I think a lot of people, the resonation is also that they've been through something or a family member has that's had that wake up call in life. I mean, I just talked to a guy this weekend that's well known in the industry. I won't not drop his name, but 4 months ago, he had a heart attack, and all 4 of the major arteries were clogged. 2 of them at over 95%. And it's funny. He's listened. I'm listening to him talk to me, and I'm like, I remember this feeling.
Yeah.
Yep. You just found out what it's like you should be dead. So very cool to see somebody like that because I've known him since before either one of us were really into this game. And he just is a better man already. And I'm like, it's too bad that for some of us, we need that to happen to wake up. So I kind of feel like it's a responsibility for those of us who are air quote fortunate enough to have that to hopefully help other people realize it without having to die.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
No, I totally agree with that. That's a good statement right there.
right?
Yeah.
So Dusty,
When you see death at your door, it totally changes you, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. For the best ways, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's the hope is that without being preachy, you can kind of help people see that because we all do the same thing. We're hustling to do well in life, to do well financially, but I don't think most people could understand that literally every morning I see the sunrise over the trees in my backyard, and I'm like, that's awesome. Every day.
Yeah.
And
That's
I think that that's the stuff people miss. And I'm like, that's free.
Right.
We all
Yeah.
get that. If you just,
Yeah.
if you're
Just
fortunate
stop
enough
for
to
a
have
second.
vision, you can see that.
Yeah.
You just got to pause, So I think that is the big stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you going to ask about mutant?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when did you start with mutant?
Ooh, man. So I had a 7-year contract with iForce Nutrition, and I started with mutant essentially during that contract because they cut it in the middle. I signed with mutant, and I have now been with mutant for 7 years. We had 1 year in between that I wasn't, but I'll call that a mulligan. Some people who are no longer with the company made some questionable choices. But no, actually, it was just a situation. It was always awesome. And it's funny because it always sounds super trite when people say this, but they literally, from the moment I spoke to them, I was invited up. They brought me to Vancouver from Scottsdale. They told me before I got on the airplane, this trip is nothing. You can get here, not like it, and go home. No problem.
Cool.
I came up. We had an awesome experience. I really enjoyed everybody that was on the team. Signed my contract. The first one was 2 years. Then I did 3 1-year deals. Then I was gone for a season. The owner of Mutant reached out to me. That was the first one. That's my
Right.
first signing right there with Big Ron, of course, 2015.
That's great.
And it was awesome. He actually called me probably 3/4 of the way through my current contract. In all honesty, just to check in, see how I was doing, tell me some things going on with the company. And he's like, would you ever be interested in coming back? And I was like, absolutely. What do you want to get going? And so I finished out my contract. I was with Condemned Labs. They were awesome as well. So
Great.
Nothing negative to say there, but Mutant was always home. So if it was an option, that's where I wanted to go. I signed back with Mutant for 1 year. And then it was funny, but I get done with last year's contract, and we had actually already spilled into this year. I had a trip coming up, and they said, hey, well, I guess before we do this trip, we should do another contract. Are you happy with the parameters of the contract? I was like, yeah, it's fine. And they said, cool, are you fine if we just send a 3-year deal now? And I'm like, fair. So I'm locked in for another 3. And, I imagine there'll be multiple long-term deals after that because it's just a good fit, solid company, good people. And Ron and I plan on dying with a Mutant logo on our chest.
How about on your leg?
That's cool.
Yeah, that one's permanent.
I'm gonna bring that one up too because I've got a couple of some people like I put up a question box, right, and people like shoot out questions, and I haven't really been asking them because we've been answering them along the way, so which is great. But yeah, so where is it at?
Yeah, so this is my little 9 hours
is new,
of fun.
eh?
Yeah, I did this last week.
Wow.
I did this
Holy shit.
on Thursday.
that's awesome.
And then
Well, that's sick. That is sick.
That's crazy.
like Jim and all the other guys didn't even know, did they? They had no clue.
No, I actually
No.
sent them that. I sent them that video in the morning
Right.
when I was done with my work of art, and I said to Jim, I said, well, I'm officially the only one who's actually bled for Mutant. So
So people that don't know, Jim is the owner, the CEO of Mutant. Yeah,
That's awesome.
really
That's
fantastic guy. He's actually coming on the podcast in a couple weeks.
oh, nice, yeah,
Yeah,
We
so
had
we're gonna
he did one
go
with
on
us
and
as
talk.
well.
yeah, we're gonna go in and talk supplements and all that fun stuff.
Nice. Yeah, no, that was it's kind of funny because I'm sure a lot of people wonder what it would, why you would tattoo a brand on your leg.
Yeah, that was
Especially,
kind of the question that we had asked
yeah,
about
and
that.
it's simple. I mean, for me, the truth is they've already been family, and if at the end of my 3 years we were done, I would have no regrets for putting that on me. It will be where my career ended. It was the best years of my career, and I will know. I mean, if everything disappeared from the company standpoint, there's a handful of people that will be friends for life. So it was a portion of my life that I definitely would want to get back, and I enjoy reliving in my mind all the time. And I knew it was a fit because Nikki was with me and I was doing the tattoo, and I let the guy actually design it as we went.
Oh,
I said to him, I was like, "Here's what I love. This, I said I like because most of my tattoos I've got skulls, women's faces. I was like, my deal. Make something around the lines of what I like." So he did the front two, and he got to the back, and he was like, "I'm thinking letters straight down the back." And he's like, "What do you think?" And I looked at Nikki and I said, "Mutant," and she goes, "Of course," because she's been around long enough. Like they've adopted her into the family just as well, and so it's just one of those deals where it wasn't, if it were any other company or any other athlete in the scenario, I might be like, I'm kind of with the viewers. Why would you do that? But when you're in my shoes, no, there's no hesitation on it being a good decision or not.
Right.
Besides, it's on my chest every day. It might as well be on my tiny calf as well.
Tiny calf. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have big. Like if I had my girlfriend's calves, then that would have taken 10 hours instead of 9. I mean,
she does have nice calves. Yeah, the letters would have been all little screws.
Yeah, they'd have been way bigger. It would have just been a lot of pain,
Yeah. But yeah, I think
stop before you got that far.
But yeah, I think like again, a lot of people might ask that, but they don't know the ins and outs of like how much of a family how much of a family this could be, right?
Oh, for sure.
Just like,
it's definitely not a company situation.
Yeah.
I mean, we touch base on the regular. Jim is literally the most in contact owner that you'll meet. I mean, he and I talk weekly for sure. George is the same way. He's the
George is a good guy.
I don't even know what George's job is, but he seems to take really good care of me. I think he kind of does everything, but he does a lot. He does a lot of stuff with the trade shows and the athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of consider the team his team, and he's just phenomenal. So those two guys are the reason that I between those two and of course Ron, like that's home. You know what I'm saying? And I know that they would definitely understand that.
Right. Cool. So I'm just gonna like being an amateur and people looking into getting sponsored. I know a lot of people coming in are like, "Oh, I'm going to do this show. I'm going to do that show. I'm going to get this sponsorship. I'm going to get that. I'm going to live the bodybuilding lifestyle. I'm not going to go to school or I'm not going to work." This is like, how unrealistic or how realistic is that for like people coming up into bodybuilding, like, or how lucky did you get and like the mutant guys get?
I mean, it really comes down to a few things. I mean, the first thing that people have to get out of their head is that it has something to do with how good of a bodybuilder you are.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, a very common thing people will say when they're reaching out for sponsorship is, "Hey, I'm John and I won this show and can I have some money?"
Right.
That's a hell of a sales pitch. What people don't realize is that sponsored athletes are advertising expenses. Mm-hmm. So it's really simple. Can I make you money that you would not make without me? That is the question.
Right.
So my job is to make sure I can create revenue for your company. That's the magic. Don't get confused. I mean, I'm sure a lot of guys wonder, why are there a bunch of good pros that don't have sponsors? And this guy who was a blah pro retired at 2017 and has a 3-year deal in 2023. It's because the way I look at it, it's business. Take away your ego and understand that your job is to make this business money and do whatever you have to do to make that happen. I would not recommend anyone take that mindset, because quite simply, bodybuilding is very expensive. So in order to chase bodybuilding, you need to be able to make the money to do it, and why would you not have a skill that you can run with? It's never a bad thing to have a skill that you can utilize later. For me, for example, I owned 5 nutrition stores when I was in the heart of my contracts and all those things. And I realized I was literally in Germany. I had just done a 11-hour day at FIBO, come back to the hotel, eaten a meal, taken a shower, went to the gym and trained, came back, showered again, and then started working for my business. And I did that for 4 days straight. FIBO was a 4-day show. And I realized the last night, I was like, okay, there's a problem here. Those who I'm competing against in the storefront business, they're not in Germany dicking off as bodybuilders. Their only goal in life is to be the best store that they could be. Then as a bodybuilder, all of my competition are asleep right now. They're worried about their meals. They're doing all this. I'm running a business. So I have 2 options. Choose one of those 2 things, or be a half-ass at both. So I said to myself, look, I can do this business any day I want to. I can do this business when I'm 70 years old. I can't do this bodybuilding thing when I'm older. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to, and the business is a more lucrative business at the time. It would have been a smarter move on paper, but my passion was with the bodybuilding. And as luck would have it, I came home from that trip. I decided I wanted to sell the business. I never put it for sale. And a guy I knew called me 3 days later and said, hey, I'm moving back from Alaska. Would you be interested in selling House of Fitness? And I sold that business. I never said it to anybody. I never told anybody I wanted to sell them.
But you just kind of...
It just happened.
The universe just made it happen.
Yep. He called me. We talked. About 3 weeks later, the deal was done. And I worked for him for 2 months, kind of teaching him what I did with the business. And I was on my way. So, yeah, it was one of those situations where you realize, that those things happen. Like, I remember I hung up the phone and I was like, I could tell you exactly where I was. I was on the 101 in Raintree, getting ready to head east on Raintree by my house. And I was like, that did not just happen. I did not just get a phone call to sell the business I want to sell that I haven't told anybody it is for sale.
It's like mind blowing. That is,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't really deny that then.
Yeah, so that worked out, and and what was crazy is, so the guy who bought that business from me is the guy who owns Muscle Factory now. So that's
nice.
that's our
cool.
relationship from there to there.
That's crazy. So you ended up moving too, not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. 2 years.
2 years. Never really figured out why you moved quite a distance. Did you not?
Yes, well, I moved from Arizona to South Carolina, so
it's a little bit
a decent distance.
Just
basically it was real simple. I had met Nikki prior to my coma, and she lives here, and I was like, well, if this is going to work, I'll move out there. I moved out here, and the original plan was to move here for a bit, and then we were going to visit some other places, figure out where we wanted to settle in. I got here. I liked it, and I was like, well, why don't we just buy a house here? And that was that. So as soon as her lease was up, actually before her lease was up, I found the house that I'm in now, and we started building it, and now we'll be here, for the foreseeable future, because I like it here. It's a little slower pace. I'm going to probably need to open a gym because they don't have what I want here, so that's going to have to be figured out.
Yeah. I was gonna mention that because you left a really nice gym. And I kind of remember the goodbye video, and it was just like, oh, tears. And
I think we'll Lance and I are actually talking about opening a Muscle Factory, possibly here. So everything's got to work out, though. Business is business. I don't rush into anything. It's got to be a good, sound decision. So if the right location opens up for the right price, then quickly thereafter, people will realize that I started buying a bunch of gym equipment again. So
you build it and they will come, man. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It's, I've definitely would enjoy that process. I've got a good amount of people here. Can't say the names of a couple local people because I won't get them in trouble where they're currently at, but some people who would be in on it, that'd be very valuable assets to the company as well. So I have no question that the intangibles are handled, because that's the part people don't realize when they open a gym. Anybody can buy a bunch of really good equipment, put it in a room, but the question is, do you have the intangibles of how to take care of the members? That's what makes a gym a gym. Muscle Factory has great equipment, but Lance, their owner, is the reason that people travel to go to that gym. You know, he's a guy, he loves to overcredit everyone but himself. He used to always say, oh, you built this gym by promoting it and doing this. And I'm like, yeah, I got people to the door. Yeah. Then they met you and they stayed, you know? So that's the difference with a great business.
Like, I think almost everybody that picks up a dumbbell along the way wants to open up their own gym, right? So you hear about it, but then to go along and do it, and then to have it to be successful, right? Just it is
that's the part, successful part. Right. That's where most people end up a little short, is they own the gym and then the gym owns them and then the gym is gone.
It's kind of where I was. I owned a gym for 10 years too, and it was getting to the point where I couldn't do the bodybuilding and own the gym because, like you said, you either got to do one or the other. And when I was in there, it's just too much. I couldn't do it right like I wanted to. If it staffed up, if you had it staffed well, then you could have kept going. But 10 years was enough for me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. I mean, were you saying like multiple owners and his staffs, and depending on size of your clientele and stuff, gives it a lot more room to do things just yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to go through looking at a few more questions for you, if you don't mind.
No worries.
Awesome. Yeah. Appreciate it. Let's see. We went through so many already. Looking back at one of your contest preps, or like any of them, guy Jeff here wants to know about your nutrition. And did you eat, like, what was like your weirdest thing that you've probably eaten, if anything, like to try to put on size, or did you have to like?
My diets were always very, very simple. You know, the only thing, I guess, in the off season when I was working with Dante and needed a ton of calories, we had a little unwritten rule that if I couldn't eat a meal because I just couldn't stomach the idea, I would just go buy like 36 chicken wings and bring them home and watch a sporting event. Because if you're watching sports, you can eat chicken wings and they will go down. Yeah. So that was a pretty
good plan. I'm gonna take that in for mine.
That was a pretty regular thing that we used to do back in the day, because that's the one thing people don't understand is nobody wants to be uncomfortable anymore. You know, it's like you can't politely ask your body to grow beyond what it wants to be. You have to force it, and that I was just telling someone today. Awesome. I spent 15 years either starving or uncomfortably bloated. Those were the two options for 15 years. You know, people want this size, but they don't want they don't want to look the way you look with the size, and B, they don't want to feel that way. It's like I hear people all the time, "Oh, my digestion." I'm like, that's not digestion. You're stuffed. You're fine. Suck it up.
You're full.
Yeah. You were full 17 bites ago and you had to finish. So
Right. I remember two things from Columbus. You looked at me, and you pretty much said the same thing, right? It's like, you got to get used to being uncomfortable, Josh. I was like, oh. Then you go like it. Then you looked at me like, buy extra. It was like, what did you say? Buy bigger T-shirts. Don't look at yourself. It's fine.
He was his upset. I mean, because the way I look at it is really simple. Is a lot of people let their short-term desires get in the way of their long-term goals. You know, I did not I was aware that I looked like a bloated cow for a year and a half in between shows, but that's why I went from 4th place to overall to winning a national level show to top 5 at the USA's with less than structural genetics, I will say. So it was just purely will and desire that I would run. I mean, I didn't worry about what I looked like other than show days. My job was to look the best I could at the next show.
Right.
You know, and
That's
I
a
will say
really
it's
good
it's
point.
harder now with the US with with like Instagram and all this because people don't want to.
Yes.
But who cares? You know, I mean, look at Justin Shire. He just did it last year. It was up to 265 pounds or
It's
something.
so
To come down to 230.
crazy.
He looked like but all he did was put on big ass shirts, train,
Yeah.
and then he came back completely morphed, and quite frankly, dusted the show and walked away. I mean, that's discipline,
Yeah,
and
he
I think
did.
that's the part that people miss. I mean, nothing about bodybuilding is sexy. I don't know why people want to pretend it is. It's just not.
Yeah. It's
Josh,
gross.
you got a show in 8 weeks.
What's that?
How you feeling? I said you got a show in like 8 weeks.
Yeah, I'm good.
He could be ready in 3 because he's in shape too much.
He's in shape all year long.
It's true.
He's just gonna. I could throw him a show this weekend. He'd be like, I can pull my water. I'll be ready. It'll be fine.
I know. Do like little
Thanks.
tricks to get him ready. Like
Yeah.
rice cakes and peanut butter.
You're not
and all
wrong.
these- no cardio. all that
Yeah.
stuff.
I don't know, man. Like
He's a genetic freak. This guy for conditioning.
I got the big shirt. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but the goal was to fit into it before the next prep.
Right.
That's where you missed the part of the story. I said, buy a shirt that's a size too big, then fit in it, then start a prep.
I did miss that.
And not because you dried it on high.
Shit. That's true.
I seen that interview, Dusty, with Justin, and where Matt kind of shut off his protocol. What was it, like 8 weeks out? Said it was kind of something was off because he was floating up and down 5, 6, 7 pounds, and he couldn't drop any weight. That's the kind of risky thing to do, to drop the protocol, going for a pro show.
Well, he didn't drop it. He switched the source of it.
Switched it. Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, he
So
switched the
it was the same things, just coming from a different place.
Yeah.
But, it's like,
Yeah.
but figuring that out, like as a coach, to say, well, let's just try this. That must be what's going on. Matt
Sometimes
must know
that's
stuff.
how it works. I mean, if you're already, it really isn't that complicated. I think that's where guys get confused. Like, if everything is being done correctly, and if you're working with a guy like Justin, it is.
Yeah.
Then what is the one factor you don't have complete control over? What's in those bottles?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
You know, let's switch that and see what happens. I mean, the other thing people don't understand is, and you know this as a coach, like, you just need to see what will happen. Like, if nothing happens, you go, okay, we got to keep looking. And if it works perfectly, you're like, ah, cool, that was it. I think a lot of times that's what people miss. It's like a coach doesn't always know what this big maneuver is going to do. But at this point, we need something to happen. You know, I mean, I've done things where I've raised the calories up and said, shit, even if they gain weight, at least something happens. We've been stuck. Then next thing you know, you raise their calories and they dump weight. And you're like, okay, that's what it was. We needed more. Fine.
Yeah.
You know, so the answers can't always, that's the part of experience that comes into play. The answer can't be always more output and less food. You know what I mean? That's just not
you're right,
always
Josh.
how it works.
That always, There's a lot of other stuff that's happening that could happen, right? So it's
Yep.
Josh,
true.
you know that.
yes. Yep. That's all right. That's fine. That's all right. Bring it on. I can take it.
Are you hungry, buddy?
We'll see tomorrow.
No, I'm not hungry. Yeah.
My girlfriend just made me these tuna kind of like pancake biscuits. They're fucking like 10 of them here.
Gross.
Yep. Like
He's
10
not
grams of
gross.
protein. Who said gross?
Josh
They're
did.
actually pretty good. Look at them. Like that looks
Well-
like a cookie. I mean, it's not a cookie, but
A tuna cookie.
Like-
Let's work on what a
Tuna
tuna cookie is.
cookie.
Holy
Like a
cow.
fuck, it's pretty good.
Talking about Are you
You
are you
got
in
twisted
prep?
understandings of food.
Are you
Tuna
you-
pancake, tuna cookie. Try chocolate
Well,
chip of both.
Just taste it. It fucking tastes good. It don't matter. Cookie, pancake. It's got
dip it in
Oh,
some
it's
taste.
bad.
dip it in some syrup or something, man? Come on, let's go.
You didn't bring any in.
Um,
I just finished up legs and jumped right on here, Dusty. So I'm.
There we go. I like your style. I pretty much did the same. Came home after a workout, ate a meal, and jumped in.
Awesome.
I never get home till about 10:02 or 1:45, so I'm doing it now.
All right,
Sorry,
we
boys.
got. It's all good. I just got one last question for you
Shoot.
from the viewers here about DC training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've been doing that for quite some time, and from the What is DC training, and how do you go about doing it? And is it recommended for novice to intermediate bodybuilders?
No to novice or intermediate bodybuilders, first off. It's definitely a program that you're going to need to be more advanced to be able to do. DC training is a low volume, high frequency, progressive overload program. So the reason that won't work for a novice to a intermediate trainer is because they're not going to put enough into each individual set for the volume to be enough. They won't grow with it.
Okay.
And that's not I mean, I like to remind people that's not bad. It doesn't mean like, oh, you're not hardcore. Intensity is something that grows over time and experience. But for someone like that, it just wouldn't be enough volume and they'd waste their time. You have to be someone who literally can take their sets to absolute hell every single time. The majority of my clients, when they start with me, are nowhere near ready for that. It's just, I mean, even seasoned, trainers, most people have no idea what their bodies are capable of.
Right.
And they get really angry with me when they send me their videos and I go, you had more. And they're like, no, I didn't. I'm like, you did. Yeah. I know. I've looked at this long enough. Like, I know when someone's brain clicks off, so it takes a lot of time to get there. But when done correctly, progressive overload training to me is the magic. It's what's going to really set you apart. Simply put, if you're benching, which I don't bench, but if you're benching 225 for 10 reps, I promise when you're doing 450 for 10 reps, you'll be bigger. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And every stage along that way, the size will be coming. The key that comes down to it is that the training remains the same. The sets remain the same. The control of the negatives remains the same. You're controlling all variables while getting stronger. Where most people screw up is the reps start to get sloppy. They start to get faster. The breaks in between get longer. And then they say, I'm getting stronger. It's like, no, you're literally changing the workout. So when done correctly, it's the best. And I will say that without Dante's guidance in DC training, no one would have ever known my name, because that's where
huge,
the size
man.
came from.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Wow. That's a huge shout out. So you do coaching as well, right? So again, like you said, you probably wouldn't be programming many DC training into. Like what? Who would
I have
get
three
it?
right now.
I
have three people I'm training on DC training right now. Just people who are experienced and really, know what they have. I mean, I've had people reach out for me before and say they want me to help them with DC, and then I'll ask to see some sets, and I'll tell them they're not really ready, and they'll say they want it anyway. So I'm like, okay, I'll teach you. I mean, I can teach you what the training is. Right. The question mark is how successful you'll be with it,
Right.
And I've got people that have gotten phenomenal results with it as well. It's just oftentimes someone will come to me for DC training. I'll work with them for 6 months, and then we'll start it. I want to train them to have them in a position where they can get into that training and be successful.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
how people? Dave was DC training too, right?
Dave Henry?
Dave.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. He was in that. Yeah. That's something to look into for sure.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I followed a lot of Dante's videos, you and him. You guys did a series together for a while. It was
Yep.
Pretty cool. All right, so if people are looking for coaching, are you available?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm always.
Yep.
I'm not somebody who pretends that there's some limit to what you can do as long as people are willing to work. So Anybody who wants to reach out to me for coaching, I just have them email me. My email is just dusty@dustyhanshaw.com. And the only thing I'm looking for clients is if they're serious about their goals. The majority of my clients do not compete. That's the one thing people don't realize. Like probably 70-80% of my clients are people who will have a goal. They want to get a little bigger. They want to lean down. It doesn't really matter. My primary function is people who are serious about what they want to do is really my only target audience.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, so what would you say for a guy like myself turning 50 this week, two torn biceps in time and one tricep torn? Like, there'd be no way that I could progressive overload, would there?
You would
they're healed.
progressive
They're healed.
overload with you'd progressive overload with higher reps. I mean, that's what everyone should do as they get older. Like, it's not a smart
what I do.
idea at 45 years old to be doing sets of 8, but people get confused. They hear the word heavy and they go, "Oh, I don't want to do 5 reps." And I'm like, "You said 5 reps. You can do heavy for 30 reps."
Heavy's
You know?
progressive to the person.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I want you to make. I mean, say we were doing a set of 20 reps for you, then the goal is to either do 1 more pound or 1 more rep next week. That's it. You know, so it's just understanding what that is. And again, if you're in that higher rep range, it's not more dangerous to get stronger. I've had guys argue with me before. They'll see me, you know, bent rowing back in the day, 5 plates aside for 10, and they're like, "That's not safe." And then I go to their page and they're bent rowing 225 for 4. And I'm like, "No, that's not safe."
Yeah.
Because the 225 is heavier for you than the 500 is for me.
Right.
You know?
That makes
So
sense.
that's the key. You know, so for you, it's not that you can't progressive
Depends on the
overload, so
person.
you change your numbers. Exactly.
I-
And then you
I
don't
do,
do
like,
movements that
12.
hurt.
Right. I do 12 to 15 reps for my sets too. So
Yeah, to me, that's
I'm
still
hitting
low.
that's still low.
Oh, yeah, I would take you higher than that. Yeah, 12 reps on, you know, that's really not, I mean, when I was DCing with like the straight sets, not the rest pauses, a low rep set was 8 to 10, and a high rep set, the drop back was 12 to 15. So, because you figure what you're trying to do, if you're getting 12 reps, for example, you should be in hell at 10. That's when the set starts. And now you got to go through some craziness to get those last 2. That's not really a lot of total reps when you're starting to get in that danger zone. But if you were struggling at 17, we're pretty safe getting those last 2 or 3 reps in comparison as far as percentage that you're asking your body for. You know, it all comes down to math. That's the biggest thing.
Jamie's
It's
turning
like,
pro this year.
Oh, math.
there we go. About time.
I was 3 weeks out from the Toronto Pro last year, and I tore that bicep. So it kind of set me back. So
What were you doing?
Here we go.
It's fuck.
Uh,
I was actually doing knee lifts on the squat bar rack. I just jumped up to grab it after my cardio first thing in the morning, and I slipped.
There you go. It's always something weird. That's why I
yeah,
asked.
it's never lifting. Right? It's just nothing.
I tore this one here pushing a car out, and I slipped and hyperextended.
There you go.
And the same thing with the tricep. I was on a snowmobile, so I had nothing. But I mean, you know, you can say it's with tightened tendons and stuff like that, and maybe weakened.
Yeah, the wear and tear took place in the gym, but the injury took place outside.
Yeah.
Yep, I hear that.
So anyway,
Yeah, we're all
so I'm
broken.
all healed up now. Good though. It's all good.
Nice.
Yep.
Back to work.
Again,
Yep.
kind of like with you, Dusty. He was in the gym. Was it 2 or 3 days after your surgery?
Yeah, I had surgery on Monday, and I was in the gym Friday night training again with the sling. So I never stopped. Same thing. I just got right back at it. Positivity just went. I had maybe a brief moment where it was like, "Fuck me," and then I just put that right behind me and kept on going. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Only way to do it.
There's no time for all that other shit, that negative stuff. I had no time for it, so I had things to do.
Things to do.
So
Awesome.
He did it.
Cool. Man. On that note, and that's it for me, guys. I think.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Awesome.
You guys,
Coming on,
thanks.
Dusty.
Yeah,
I really
Dusty. Thank you,
appreciate
buddy.
That was
Absolutely,
awesome.
my pleasure.
It was
very
nice.
much.
Are you gonna be at Olympia this year?
Yep.
Down
Yep,
with
we are, of course.
I will see you there.
Awesome. Yeah, we all fly out. I don't even know when. I'm just this year's been an easy travel year for me, so
Nice.
I'm looking forward to another trip finally.
Cool. I'm planning on doing the amateur Olympia, so we'll be there.
Of course you are.
I know.
In every show in between. One of these days I'm gonna get through to him. One of these days.
And then that's it.
We're
That's it.
qualifying in a couple weeks.
You said that last year when I yelled at you at dinner. It's all the same. He lies to me like an ex-wife. It's unbelievable. All right, guys. Well,
You're right.
thanks again for having me on, and
right,
All right,
I look forward to seeing this out there, and we'll
sure,
we'll fire
buddy.
it all over the place when it does.
good.
Perfect.
Good talking to you, Dusty.
All right, good talking.
Thanks.
All
Yeah.
right, guys.
Thanks for
See you
coming,
later.
man.